The Betrayal of Berlin. The war had ravaged Berlin, leaving the city a ghostly shell, but for Fritz, the final mission was just beginning under the cover of nightfall. He walked through the desolate streets, his heart pounding with every step, knowing that any wrong move could mean certain death. Disguised as a loyal Nazi officer, Fritz carried secrets that could turn the tide of the war, but he needed to infiltrate the most dangerous place in Berlin. The bunker, where the Nazi high command planned their last desperate moves, loomed ahead, a fortress of power and fear amidst the crumbling city. Anneliese, a brave resistance fighter, met him at a dimly lit corner, her eyes full of determination and a hidden sorrow that only war could bring. "This is our last chance," she whispered, handing him forged documents that would grant him access to the heart of the enemy. Fritz nodded, knowing that Anneliese's life depended on the success of his mission, just as much as the future of the free world did. Inside the bunker, the air was thick with tension, officers moving like shadows, unaware that a spy walked among them. Karl, a high-ranking Nazi officer, watched Fritz with a calculating gaze, sensing that something about him didn't quite add up. Fritz maintained his composure, knowing that any sign of fear or hesitation could lead to his exposure and execution. Helena, a local journalist allowed into the bunker for propaganda purposes, unknowingly provided Fritz with crucial information. She spoke of troop movements and whispered about the desperation of the Reich, her words confirming what Fritz had feared. As days passed, the city above crumbled further, bombs raining down as the Allies pushed closer, yet Fritz remained focused on his goal. Anneliese sent him coded messages through discreet nods and subtle gestures, their communication a lifeline in the chaos. Fritz attended meetings with the Nazi leadership, listening to their plans, all the while memorizing details to relay to the Allies. He grew closer to Karl, who had become increasingly suspicious, but Fritz knew how to play the role, feigning loyalty with every breath. One night, Fritz discovered a plan to fortify the bunker with the last of their resources, a desperate move that could prolong the war. He knew he had to act quickly, but the pressure was immense, and the walls seemed to close in on him with each passing hour. Anneliese arranged for a secret meeting in an abandoned building, where Fritz could pass on the vital information to Allied contacts. They met in the dead of night, the building's broken windows letting in the cold, bitter air that mirrored the hopelessness around them. "This will change everything," Fritz said, handing over the documents that detailed the enemy's plans and weaknesses. Anneliese nodded, her face set in determination, but a flicker of fear crossed her eyes, knowing the risks they both faced. The next day, Fritz returned to the bunker, his heart heavy with the knowledge that his mission was nearing its most dangerous phase. Karl confronted him, his voice low and menacing, questioning Fritz's sudden absence and the details of his supposed loyalties. Fritz lied effortlessly, his life depending on the convincing nature of his deception, knowing that Karl was on the brink of discovering the truth. Meanwhile, Allied forces were closing in on Berlin, their presence felt in the tremors that shook the ground and the distant thunder of artillery. Helena, still unaware of Fritz's true identity, confided in him about the increasing desperation among the officers and the civilians' growing despair. Fritz used this information to further refine his intelligence reports, knowing that every detail could be crucial in the final assault. The tension in the bunker was palpable, with the officers growing increasingly paranoid, their grip on reality slipping as defeat loomed. Fritz knew that time was running out, both for his mission and for the city, as the war reached its inevitable, bloody conclusion. One evening, Karl called Fritz into his office, his eyes cold and calculating, the air thick with suspicion and unspoken accusations. "You're hiding something," Karl said, his voice a dangerous whisper, as he circled Fritz like a predator sizing up its prey. Fritz remained calm, his face a mask of indifference, but inside, his mind raced, searching for a way out of the deadly confrontation. Just as Karl was about to press further, a bomb exploded nearby, shaking the bunker and sending everyone into a state of panic. Fritz seized the opportunity to slip away, using the chaos to cover his escape, knowing that his cover was hanging by a thread. He hurried to the rendezvous point where Anneliese waited, her face pale but resolute, knowing that the endgame was near. "They're onto me," Fritz said, his voice filled with urgency, as he handed her one last piece of critical information. Anneliese took it, her hand trembling slightly, understanding the gravity of what Fritz had done and the danger they both were in. The Allied forces were now on the outskirts of Berlin, their advance unstoppable, the city's fall imminent, yet Fritz's mission was not complete. Helena, growing increasingly suspicious of the chaos around her, began to piece together the truth about Fritz, her mind racing with the implications. She confronted him in a quiet moment, her eyes searching his for answers, but Fritz could only offer her silence, his mission too vital to explain. The city was now a war zone, the sounds of battle echoing through the streets, and Fritz knew his time was running out. He made his way to the final meeting place, the sounds of gunfire and explosions growing ever closer, the world around him collapsing. Karl, relentless in his pursuit of the truth, had followed Fritz, determined to uncover his true identity and stop him at any cost. Fritz arrived at the meeting place, his breath coming in short, desperate gasps, as he saw Anneliese waiting, her face set in determination. Just as he handed her the last of his intelligence, Karl burst in, his gun drawn, his eyes filled with a mixture of anger and betrayal. "It's over," Karl said, his voice trembling with rage, as he aimed the gun at Fritz, his finger hovering over the trigger. Fritz stood tall, knowing that his mission was complete, the intelligence already on its way to the Allies, but his fate now sealed. Anneliese moved to shield him, but Fritz shook his head, a silent plea for her to stay back, knowing that there was no escape. Karl hesitated for a moment, the weight of their shared past and the betrayal heavy in the air, before pulling the trigger. Fritz fell, the sound of the gunshot echoing in the small room, but he felt a strange sense of peace, knowing that his mission had succeeded. Anneliese cried out, rushing to his side, but Fritz knew that his time was over, his life sacrificed for a greater cause. The Allied forces entered Berlin, their victory all but certain, the information Fritz had delivered playing a crucial role in their final push. Karl, realizing too late the futility of his actions, disappeared into the chaos, his life forever marked by the betrayal. Helena, piecing together the truth, wrote the story of the spy who had risked everything, her words immortalizing his sacrifice. Anneliese continued the fight, her resolve strengthened by Fritz's courage, knowing that his memory would live on in the free world he helped create. The war ended, Berlin was liberated, but the cost was heavy, the city and its people forever scarred by the conflict that had consumed them. Fritz's name became a legend, a symbol of bravery and sacrifice, his actions remembered as a pivotal moment in the final days of the war. The betrayal of Berlin was not just a story of espionage, but a testament to the complex nature of loyalty and the price of victory in the darkest of times.